Well, next week there's Adventure on the High Seas as Anthony Quinn and James Coburn star in an adaptation of Richard Hughes's novel, A High Wind in Jamaica. And you can see that next Thursday at 6:05. In 5 minutes, we continue our snooker coverage with the last of the group matches from the World Team Classic being played at Reading. And that's after the news summary with Louise Batchelor.
Good evening. Attempts by ACAS to break the deadlock at BL have ended in failure after separate talks with both the management and unions. The latest survey by the employers' organisation, the CBI, points to more gloom in British industry and increasing unemployment. And the OPEC ministers meeting in Geneva have finally agreed on oil prices. Now the news in detail with subtitles. The strike threatened at British Leyland next week seems likely to go ahead, after attempts by the conciliation service ACAS to prevent the stoppage broke down today. This morning, the head of the BL car company led a management team to ACAS to explain the management's position very clearly. The management side told officials at ACAS that they wouldn't increase their pay offer. And after a short meeting with union officials this afternoon, ACAS announced that there was no basis for agreement. Union leaders say the strike will start at midnight on Saturday, and that no maintenance workers would turn up on Sunday. In the Commons this afternoon, Mrs Thatcher has repeated that the government has no intention of intervening. The employers' organisation, the Confederation of British Industry, has reported a further but smaller decline in business confidence. In its quarterly survey of manufacturing industry, the CBI says the lower value of sterling has helped exports. But this has been counteracted to some extent recently by higher interest rates. Demand remains poor, investment intentions weak, and businessmen expect a further widespread decline in employment. ICI has reported that its pre-tax profits are £86 million for the third quarter of the year, a figure better than expected. Profits are up by £3 million on the second quarter and compare with a loss of £10 million in the third quarter of 1980. Britain's 36,000 firemen have won a 10% pay deal. It takes the pay of a qualified fireman to more than £139 a week, a £12 rise. The agreement was reached with the local authorities under a formula which guarantees that firemen's pay should be in line with skilled workers. In Geneva, ministers from the oil-producing states have agreed on a unified base price for oil. It goes up from $32 to $34 a barrel. The decision will now mean that petrol in Britain will cost up to 4p a gallon more. The Israeli cabinet has been meeting today to discuss the American decision to sell AWACS radar planes to Saudi Arabia. After the cabinet meeting, the Israeli Prime Minister, Mr. Begin, said a new and grave danger faced Israel. The sale of the planes to Saudi Arabia was approved late last night by a majority of just 4 votes. The deal will provide Saudi Arabia with 5 AWACS planes and other military equipment, constituting America's biggest arms sale. The Swedish government has ordered naval units to salvage a Soviet submarine which ran aground in a restricted area on its coast. The foreign minister says the Russians have agreed to the Swedes carrying out the salvage work, despite previous claims that Russians should carry out the operation. A thorough investigation is to be made into the submarine's presence in the area, and only then will the intruders be handed back to the Soviet Union. Mr. Whitelaw, the Home Secretary, has said the damage caused by police during a raid in July on 11 houses in Brixton was unavoidable. The police, he said, were right to follow up information they'd received from a reliable source about petrol bombs, particularly as it was during a period of riots. But the Labour MP for Lambeth Central, Mr. John Tilley, said Mr. Whitelaw's statement would cause anger and disappointment among people in Brixton. On the last day of their Welsh tour, Prince Charles and the Princess of Wales have visited Cardiff.
By Gloria.